Thank you very much. Yeah, Port's central role in offshore decommissioning activities, that's part of what we are in this DecomTools project for, and also the logistics. For those of you who don't know Port of Grenaa, then we are located in Denmark at the nose of Jutland towards the Kattegat Sea, and we are well positioned between the Baltic Sea and the North Sea. So that is just for you who don't know where we are located. And then I'll try to do it like this. My name is Theis, and I'm commercially responsible for the Port of Grenaa for most of our activities. I have a background in wind and shipping and logistics. We are working solely with our house of strategy, where we right now are working towards a strategy of 2025. We say that we are part of Partnership for a Green World, so we are looking very much into sustainability and everything that sounds like that, but we also want to be a partner. If we are looking at the strategy, we have a focus strategy where we have taken some decisions of where we are good and what we are good at, and also by that saying what we are not good at, because that's very, very important for us. We want to find customers and partners that fits into more of these segments. If you fit into more segments, then we can add more value for you. And that is our main goal. In principle, we own and operate infrastructure. So having the right infrastructure at the right time is essential. And decommissioning is really also where we'll find solutions. 50% of what we do is day-to-day operation oriented, and 50% is project-based. So that is a difficulty in capacity planning that I'm dealing with on a daily basis. We are an industrial deep water port, far from city environment. So this is why we have chosen these segments as well. I'll deep into some of them that makes sense to this project. We have two strategy houses today in our strategy because we are both focusing on our commercial side of it, and we have built it into a holistic strategy where we are also looking into sustainability. And the UN Global Goals is something that we have very much focus on. Sustainability for us can be something that we do on our own basis inside our organization and externally. You'll see that we have focused on 7 strategy areas, and you'll also see that this is areas where we have challenged ourselves, because infrastructure and life in sea is not part of what we are focusing on. That's not because that we don't do it on a daily basis, but this is where we are very strong. So we have challenged ourselves to look at where we can learn something. And we want to always think of the overall holistic strategy when we try to go into new things. And what is our know-how then that makes sense for us to look into recycling and waste management in offshore wind? We have a long background in offshore wind in general, and also onshore wind. Pre-assembly of Anholt offshore windmill farm was done in Port of Grenaa. We have done floating, we have done fixed offshore wind. We have been doing test projects, and we have actually also done some of the smaller decommissioning projects at our port together with our partners. Then recycling and waste management is maybe the most important strategy area for us. we are looking into that this will be the segment where we see the most opportunity to add value for our customers due to our location and infrastructure, but also due to the knowledge that these companies have. And that could be for environmental licenses, infrastructure, our cranes. We can handle a lot of cargo related to recycling and waste management. It is both dry bulk and liquid bulk. And we see an increase in biogas products where we will also see that we will increase in handling activities. This combined with the ship recycling that we have done for ages, we have a philosophy that we think that this know-how can be transferred at a certain point towards wind decommissioning and wind recycling. So it is something about efficiency, it's something about scaling up. Those from the wind industry have been told for ages, why don't they just go into or look into the automotive industry and then just scaling up based on that? I'm just not fully agreeing with that you can transfer automotive to wind turbines, because it's a fully different industry. That's the same with recycling. You can of course implement some standardization and do it at a certain scaling up option, but you'll always find differences in between these ship recycling operations. In ship recycling, it's a matter of product value chain, the reuse and the recycling and scrapping, and then there is a lot of legislation that actually makes it possible for a company in Grenaa to run a ship recycling facility, because the competition is big, the world is big, and most vessels are going to India, Bangladesh, Turkey, China for doing this. But we want to do the industry's best, and we want to do it in a controlled environment and always try to be better. But the ship recycling is, as we see it, a matter of that the vessel is coming to port of Grenaa for recycling. Then the stockyard that the company that does the recycling has is actually the main focus for them today, because they need to get vessels in for scrapping to be able to have enough at their stockyard for reselling. So their biggest income today is actually reselling of products, not the scrapping part, but they need to have vessels for scrapping to be able to have a stock. So if we can at least try to look into that, looking at wind turbines as well, then I think we can add a lot of value to the industry. We have had some projects within wind upgrade where we have handled turbines, Vestas V80 turbines from Germany, driven to or transported to Grenaa for upgrades, and today they are erected in UK at a site there. So we always think that there are a lot of outs in both ship recycling, but could also be in wind turbine recycling. But in the value chain, the next step is of course scrapping, and then we have reuse and resell. And looking at ship recycling, it is a variety of vessel types. So you can't just have some kind of clients that has offshore vessels, or you have only one type of engine. And that I see the same similarities in the wind industry, because you have various producers of turbines. You have all kinds of spare parts that needs to be able to be sold around the world to keep these turbines running. So we hope that some of that can be that knowledge can be can be transferred. But it also add up that we need to have some kind of stock exchange, or at least a database on all these spare parts to be able to sell it around the world. But it has been done in the ship industry for ages. So can we transfer it to the wind industry? That would be a fantastic case. Then looking into port facilities, then that is our main focus at the moment, because what kind of infrastructure is needed in the future to be able to accommodate this? We of course see the similarities of pre-assemble or an installation of turbines and doing it reverse in the port, that we on project basis need to have a lot of land for the components to be able to be the flexible part between the offshore and the production, because we have a big recycling facilities for scrap, steel recycling, and they need a steady production to be as efficient as possible. But when we are decommissioning turbines, maybe hundreds of them offshore, and we know that the main driver is the installation vessel or the decommissioning vessels due to cost, then we need to be the flexible part in between. But we also would like to have pre-assembly of new turbine parks. So how do we control our capacity planning so that we can both develop in that industry and in the wind industry and in the ship recycling industry? So this is a challenge that a lot of ports has at the moment, because we see an increase overall in all kinds of industries within port activities. So it's not a matter of that, for instance, recycling can take over a segment where we have a lower operational situation today or tomorrow. So everything is growing, and that is a challenge. So our philosophy is that we need to develop, we need to have a project site at the port, but we also need to develop industrial sites outside the port to accommodate all kinds of companies that needs to have recycling facilities. That could also be power to X or production, but we need to have a supply chain that is nearby to add value, but we also need to accommodate the projects in between and levelize our capacity all the time. So this part, we don't know exactly when the offshore wind decommissioning will be at a higher scale, but we can see just looking at wind developments of new turbine parks in Kattegat area, where we are very much focused right now. We see a gap in between port facilities, companies that can actually do it, and where do we put our focus? Because it's always a better image to do the clean part of the wind industry, the erection and the installation and O&M, but we also need to accommodate the end of life. So it is a balance, and we are following all the industries to be able to have the right infrastructure at the right time. That was actually it.
Thank you, Theis. We do have time for a short question. Anyone have a question for Theis? No one dares? Yes, Truls?
Yeah, thanks for a very nice presentation. Denmark has a lot of ports.
Yeah.
Do you foresee like one port will be the main place for decommissioning, while others will have other specialities, or do you think every port will do everything?
We see over the past 10 years, we have seen that every port in Denmark is focusing on something. We also see change where the inside city ports are being closed down due to a lot of environmental difficulties and also the value of having an apartment compared to normal port operation. But looking 10 years ago, I would say there were a scrap facility, maybe not a production scrap facility, but a pile of scrap in all small ports in Denmark. But today we see it maybe in 5 ports. And we see that it is a focus. We don't see every port in Denmark handling containers because some of them are really good at it. And that is also why we have made our strategy looking at what we are good at and how we can add that value. So I see that a couple of ports will do it. We are 3 ports in Denmark doing vessel recycling. I could see that 3 to 5 ports will do wind turbine recycling at a certain level. And that's also one of our analysis in the project. We haven't talked to all ports in the North Sea region, but we have really tried to figuring out what is the market potential and will there be ports enough. But it is really looking at this. Ports are really they are really busy at the moment, and is the focus then on bulk cargo on something else? So it's a matter of also having it top of mind, this recycling.
Thank you for interesting presentation. Give Theis a hand.